It's always this. You talk about saving money and not spending any money, and that has to be part of your protocol, how you live your life, and you have to invest, not just save. I've talked about this dozens of times. But that means you can't buy anything. You're always taking $100 a week, which is what I say you should do, and investing it over the long period, because the markets give you somewhere between a 6 and 8% return over long periods of time. Yes, they go up and down, but the whole idea I've been talking about is taking a portion of your salary. Let's say you only make $56,000 a year, the average salary, and you take $100 a week and you start investing it, not saving it in a savings account because that doesn't pay any interest anymore, but putting it into the stock market and letting it grow over 30, 40 years. If you do that and you have that discipline, you'll end up a millionaire in your 60s, where you really need to have some money to retire with, as much as $1.5 million. So I think that's a pretty pragmatic strategy. Now, how much are watches worth over time? I'm going to give you an extreme example. I want you to watch this video about a Daytona, which is why I wore this one today, bought in the 70s for just around $400, or under 500 anyways. And then what is it worth today? You might get a real kick out of this. Now, this is an extreme example, but I want to point out to you the idea of investing in yourself, in pieces you love that can appreciate over time.
I brought in a Rolex watch that I had purchased while I was in military. I flew on Air America Airlines and Continental Airlines, and I noticed that most of the pilots that were flying those aircraft wore Rolex watches, and I was intrigued by them. I always wanted to purchase them, but they were very expensive. Later, when I was transferred to another base, I did some scuba diving, and I knew that the Rolex watch was good for scuba diving. I found this particular watch where I could afford it, and I never used it. I looked at it and I said, you know, this is really too nice to take down in salty water. I just kept it.
And this particular model, being marked Oyster, is extremely, extremely rare. Basically, it's a new old stock watch, no wear on it, the original foil sticker on the back of it, and the fact that we have all this complete documentation here also. Maybe one of the very few in the whole world that still was never worn. Your watch at auction today, $500,000 to $700,000.
Now, how crazy is that? 400 and change to $700,000 during a man's lifetime? Yes, it can happen. That's an extreme example, but my point is these watches do appreciate. In fact, Paul Newman's, you heard reference to in that video, sold for $17.5 million. Your watch may not do that, but the point is, over time, a beautiful timepiece that you love, that you invested in for yourself, goes up in value. $21,000, you want to put that to work? I prefer these days using ETFs, exchange traded funds, and here's why. These days, most online brokers will let you set up an account, no fees, which is fantastic, because we really want to reduce our fees if we can. So you set up one of those, and then you wire in the $21,000. And if you're young, you're 21, so generally speaking, the older you get, the more you want to put in more conservative investments like fixed income, like bonds, something like that. Or these guaranteed certificates of deposit, which aren't great in my view because you're only making about 2%, but that's not bad if you're just saving money. But you can get ETFs that are basically a basket of very short-term government bonds that yield about 1.9 to 2.1%. So the key is, all of these services provide you with information about which ETFs to buy. I like ETFs, they're transparent, they're low fee, they're very liquid, you can buy and sell them. So I would buy something like the SPY, which is the entire market. It's very inexpensive. You get the whole, Standard & Poor's 500 stocks that make up the largest market cap companies in the world, basically. And then maybe you get 50% in that, and then another 40% in a couple of ETFs that are just short duration government bonds and short duration corporate credits. Again, these are available, and I always say ask an advisor, because you're going to get one for free on these online services. You can just text them and they'll give you information. Say, look, I want to be sort of 50% in equities, inexpensive ETFs, and maybe 40% in short duration government bonds and short duration corporate debt, investment grade, that's BBB, and then 10% cash. And most of these provide a cash account too, which has yield. So then all the money is going to work. It'll be volatile. Stocks will go up and down, but over time, because Emily, you're so young, I think you probably, on average from the past, you're going to make 6-7% a year on average on the equities and maybe 2 or 3% on the debt. And it'll grow and it'll be ready for you when you retire. And don't forget to add to it. You got to add to it. Take 10% of your salary is what I always say.